Okay, NXT TakeOver Toronto. Show just wrapped up, give or take about 6 minutes ago. You know what? Let's get right to it. The first match, Bobby Roode versus Ty Dillinger. To start things off, Roode's introduction, he had a choir singing him down to the ring. His glorious theme song, which has of course become something of an internet meme now. Dillinger didn't really have a fancy opening at all, even though he's also from the Toronto area, give or take. Anyway, to start things off, Dillinger did the, not Dillinger, Roode was doing his glorious pose, and Dillinger decked him. Dillinger kind of dominated the opening parts of the match. He was just sending Roode, he sent Roode over the top rope a couple of times. He delivered some kicks, sent Roode into the ring steps. Hit a big back body drop on the outside of the ring. But Roode began to fight back. Roode slammed Dillinger's face off the LED board on the side of the ring. Dillinger fought back again, countered a neck breaker into a backslide. Dillinger rallied with 3 flying forearm attacks. Dillinger went for the tiebreaker, but Roode rolled out of the ring, started to walk up the ring. It goaded Dillinger back into the ring. Dillinger grabbed Roode, tossed him back into the ring. That enabled Roode enough time to hit a spinebuster on Dillinger for a 2 count. Roode hit a superplex on Dillinger for a 2 count. Roode went for a roll-up, tried using the ropes for leverage. The ref saw it, so he stopped at a 2 count. This enabled Dillinger to come back, hit a super kick for a 2 count. Dillinger then locked on a sharpshooter, but Roode got to the top ropes. Roode then managed to toss Dillinger headfirst into the ring post a couple of times. He then hit an Impaler DDT for the 3 count and the victory. This was a really good, solid match to start things off. Ty Dillinger really didn't look weak at all through this. He looked strong. It was like maybe they're finally going to do something with this Perfect 10 character. The fans have always kind of been behind it. He's been sort of a goofy guy, to basically borderline jobber used to build in the incoming talent. At least in this case, he looked like it was a quality match. It wasn't just sacrificial for the point of being sacrificial. And again, Roode's just up on the scene. He's trying to make his way up as a top heel. And it's good that he got the win. Okay, our second match is the finals of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Tournament. It's the Authors of Pain versus TM61. If you don't know what TM61 is, they were an independent tag team called TMDK, which stands for The Mighty Don't Kneel. They are Nick Miller and Shane Thorne. I swear at the beginning of the match they called him Shane Thorpe, and I threw my notes off because very early on I kept calling him Thorpe. Anyway, the Authors of Pain are managed by Paul Ellering. If you don't remember them, they debuted in an NXT TakeOver The End, and they attacked American Alpha, and their 2 competitors are named Akam and Razar, or in other words, Occam's Razor. Anyway, the TM61 apparently is a reference to the area code in Australia. Well, really, it's a Pokemon reference. They say it's a reference to the area code in Australia, but that's not really the case. Anyway, as part of the conditions of this match, because Ellering had been interfering in the Authors of Pain's matches on their behalf throughout the tournament, it was decided that Ellering should be suspended above the ring in a shark cage. Anyway, Akam and Miller started things off. Razor and Thorpe then began fighting. Let's see, I said Thorpe again. Razor and Thorne started fighting on the outside of the ring. They began climbing the support structure for the cage that was holding Ellering above the ring. Thorne hit a diving somersault onto everyone on the outside of the ring. The Authors of Pain came in and they kind of began to isolate Thorne. They had a big stomp on him and got a 2 count out of it. Eventually, Thorne managed to get the tag to Miller. Miller came in and drop kicked for Razor. He hit a moonsault for a 2 count. TM61 hit their finisher, which I believe is called the Thunder Valley. I may be wrong on that. Only got a 2 count on it. The pin was broken up. At this point, they began to brawl to the outside of the ring, except for Akam, and Paul Ellering dropped a chain from the cage into the ring. Akam, or no wait, it was Razor, my mistake, Razor, picked up the chain, wrapped it around his hand, and began going. At this point, Shane Thorne confronted him, and I think Razor meant to hit Thorne with the chain. It missed. Something happened because they didn't actually use the chain. It flew out of the ring. Thorne went for a sunset flip, got a 2 count, but it was enough for Akam to get back in the ring. They hit their finisher, which is this clothesline into a Russian leg sweep for the 3 count. The winners of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. The finishing move, by the way, is called The Last Chapter, sorry, for the 3 count and the win. The Authors of Pain win the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. They celebrated with Paul Ellering in the ring. Triple H and Dustin Rhodes came down to present them the trophy. They were actually gracious, even though they're supposed to be heels. So, make of that what you will. Okay, well, just a bit on that last match before we go on to the next one. Overall, it was all right. It had some good storytelling. It had some decent high spots in it. The suicide dive from the cage support structure was really awkward. Like, I think it was meant to take all 3 guys out, but one of them really wasn't involved that much. I want to say it was Razor. Was a little off on it. I think he fell down without actually being hit. Other than that, though, like I said, it was a good solid match. I'm not going to pick too much on it. Anyway, our third match of the evening is the 2 out of 3 falls match for the NXT Tag Team Championship. The Revival, Dash and Dawson versus #DIY, a.k.a. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. Gargano and Dawson started things off. Ciampa got tagged in. He hit a discus clothesline after an atomic drop. At this point, Dash Wilder tagged in. Revival began to isolate Ciampa. Revival hit the Shatter Machine on Gargano for the first fall. Dash and Dawson then got Gargano tangled up in the ropes and beat him for a while. Dawson locked Gargano in a rear naked choke. Gargano hit kind of a unique swinging DDT, and in the midst of swinging, he delivered an Enziguri to both members of the... I think he hit the Enziguri on Dawson, and Wilder got hit with the DDT. The Revival fought back again, hit a heart attack and got a 2 count. After that, Gargano countered a top rope suplex into... he countered a top rope suplex and tagged in Ciampa. DIY hit their finisher, which I can't remember what that's called, unfortunately. They got the second fall, evening things up at 1 fall apiece. Dawson countered an armbar into a crucifix pin and got a 2 count. Gargano hit a jumping DDT and got a 2 count. The Revival hit a discus clothesline into a German suplex and got a 2 count. Gargano countered a backslide into a small package and got a 2 count. At this point, Dawson got in the ring and chopped Gargano's leg and then locked on the inverted figure 4. But Gargano made it to the ropes. At this point, the tag teams began to perform each other's finishers. The Revival went for DIY's finisher, which again, I cannot remember for the love of Pete what it's called. And it got broken up before it could be landed. And that enabled DIY to hit the Shatter Machine on, I believe it was Dash. And they covered it, and the pin got broken up, so they only got a 2 count on it. Dawson then went for a chop block on... Or Wilder went for a chop block on Gargano. But Gargano fought out of it, locked on a crossface. Dawson came in to break it up, but Ciampa came in and locked an armbar on Dawson, and then both members of the Revival tapped out. Your new NXT Tag Team Champions, DIY. Really, right now, early on, that was my really big candidate for match of the night. They really knew how to work this thing well. I mean, that first fall came so quickly, and then it looked like so many times they were going to get that second fall, and then the third fall, they built and built and built, and they built it well, and they had good high spots. They didn't overdo it, and I think they built on the momentum that came off of that Brooklyn show. So yeah, leading candidate at that point for match of the night. We'll get to that later. After that, we have the NXT Women's Championship match. Asuka against Mickie James. And yes, I am aware that this was originally supposed to be Trish Stratus, but Trish found out she was pregnant and had to drop out of the match. So they replaced it with Mickie James, who's a good enough worker, so that's perfectly reasonable in this case. But right away, Mickie went for a quick pin after a takedown. Mickie hit a running knee on Asuka. Asuka fought back and locked on a hammerlock. Asuka then sent Mickie outside of the ring with a running hip attack. She then did it again. Mickie then hit a head scissors off of the ring apron. Asuka then tried to lock on an ankle lock and then enabled that enabled her to lock on a German suplex, which she hit on the outside of the ring. Asuka then did an octopus stretch through the ropes. Barely beat the 5 count for the disqualification. Mickie then countered a running knee into a half crab. Mickie hit a flapjack and then went for a top rope senton, got a 2 count. Mickie then hit the Mick kick for a 2 count. Mickie then went for DDT. Asuka countered that into the Asuka lock. Mickie tried to roll out of it a couple of times. Asuka eventually locked it on, and Mickie immediately tapped, and that was it. No real shock that Asuka retained. Unfortunately, the women's division in NXT has really been picked dry. Asuka's really the strongest. I know Billie Kay and Peyton Royce are doing something right now, and they're developing some characters, but they're heels now. Asuka's starting to act a little heelish herself. There's no real strong babyface. I know they're trying to with Liv Morgan and Ember Moon, but so far it's not really panning out. So this match itself, the match in and of itself was pretty ho-hum. Again, not really expecting Mickie James to walk out with the titles, so that hampers it right off the bat. And now to our main event, the NXT World Championship match, Nakamura Shinsuke versus Samoa Joe. Both men landed simultaneous kicks on each other to start off the match. Nakamura countered a running clothesline with a knee to the gut. Nakamura kicked Joe into the over the ring barricade as they were fighting outside the ring. Eventually they got back into the ring. Joe hit his big corner enziguri. Joe drove Nakamura's knees right into the ring on this kind of slam. He sort of picked him up like he was going to body slam him, and he slammed the knees down first like that. And after that, Joe tossed Nakamura out of the ring and then followed it with a big suicide dive. Joe set up the ring steps so he could do an uranagi on them, but Nakamura began to fight out of it. Nakamura hit a big running roundhouse kick and then followed it with a drop kick. Joe then hit a power bomb and locked that into a Boston Crab, and then he followed that up into a crossface. Nakamura hit a flying knee off the second rope, only got a 2 count. Joe hit a spinning heel kick to Nakamura's knee. Nakamura countered a muscle buster and then hit the Kinshasa and only got a 2 count. Nakamura went for a second Kinshasa, but Joe countered that into a rear naked choke. Nakamura managed to fight out of it enough. He hit another Kinshasa as Joe was laying against the ring ropes to the back of Joe's head. Unfortunately, Nakamura himself got hurt. Joe rolled out of the ring. Didn't look like he was going to beat the 10 count, but Nakamura rolled out of the ring. He wanted to finish it. Joe countered. He went for a Kinshasa on the outside of the ring. Joe countered that with a kick to the inside of Nakamura's leg. He then hit the uranagi on the ring steps, rolled Nakamura back in the ring, hit the muscle buster for the 3 count. NXT World Heavyweight Champion for the 2nd time, and the first ever 2-time NXT World Champion, Samoa Joe. And yeah, this one really did set up the match of the night. They really fought hard. Again, Joe was cut open. The kicks were authentic. These two guys were really fighting hard. You believe that they were fighting with every bit of their being. Joe had everything countered, unlike in Brooklyn where he just kind of expected to overpower Nakamura. He was smarter in this case. He hit those big moves on the outside of the ring. I will say this, a little disappointed that Joe's champion for a 2nd time. Again, I kind of like the idea that there really weren't any 2-time NXT champions. Just like there weren't 2-time NXT tag team champions until the revival. There's still never been a 2-time NXT women's champion, but I kind of thought that made NXT a little more unique that usually a guy loses the belt, he loses his rematch, and then it's sort of his then call up to the main roster. And, well, I guess for now, Joe's not going to be called up to the main roster unless he somehow drops the belt back at the Royal Rumble show, or the show before the Royal Rumble, which is the next NXT show. Anyway, on to the show overall, and yeah, gonna give this an A. Really, the one sort of ho-hum match of all that was the Women's Championship match. Not enough to really kill this show. It was still very enjoyable. It was tightly packed, especially since Survivor Series is shaping up to be a bit of a doozy. If you don't know, the show proper is going to be 4 hours long, and there's going to be a 2-hour kickoff show. Now, there haven't been any matches announced for the kickoff show yet. At least, as I'm recording this, I don't know of any matches that have been announced yet. And, yeah, so that's going to be a doozy when I have to review that on Monday morning for the recap show I'll be doing then. The recap and review for that show. And suddenly the fact that I took that extra week off in between random trade review episodes starting to make a lot more sense. Okay, anyway, I'll get this up soon. Again, I'll try to get this up as soon as I can. Like I said, Survivor Series will be up Monday, probably afternoon at this point, maybe even mid of Monday afternoon, like 3 o'clock or so my time. See you all then.